Hi, everyone. Hi, good morning. Good morning, children and parents. Hi, welcome to the Oxford Book Club. Today, we are very pleased to have Miss Melanie Lee to share with us her book. So I'm CK, your MC for today's event. And we'll hear her speak in a while, okay? We'll hear Melanie speak in a while. I'll let you go through some introduction about the book club and how to interact with the speaker. Okay, so before we start, can you share in the chat, okay? And for those who can't type, maybe parents can assist a bit. How old are you? Okay, how old are you? Find the chat button, okay, and type in the chat box. Oh, there's a 9.75, okay? Quite a few 7s, 9s, 8s, okay? Yeah, so pretty much P1, P2, lower primary, and maybe preschool, okay? So Melanie can see as well. Now let's try this out. How many of you are here for the first time? Please click on the raise hand button. Okay, find the raise hand button. Okay, there's a number of you who are here for the first time. Not all of you are raising your hand, okay? Yeah, that's good. So later on, if you want to speak over the microphone to the speaker, please please type MIC in the chat box and raise your hand as well, okay? So this book club session will be interactive, okay? And Miss Melanie would love to speak to some of you, okay, later on. Okay, so why are we holding this book club? The first and foremost, okay, we want all of you to be interested in reading. Nothing beats taking up a book, have the habit of reading to master the English language. And through the sessions, we want you to also gain knowledge and wisdom from interesting experiences that speakers share, and also improve your English language. We'll highlight certain words and sentences that will help to improve your English and take it to your writing as well as reading, okay? So without further ado, I would like to introduce the speaker, Miss Melanie Lee. Melanie Lee, okay, sorry. She writes children's books. She's a very passionate writer, and she used to write for travel magazines. How cool is that? You know, you get to travel, see places, and write about them as well. And she also happens to teach part-time at a polytechnic and a university in Singapore, okay? Hi, Melanie, welcome today.
Hello, morning, everybody. So I will start my slides now, CK. Is that okay?
Please,
okay, great.
Share your slides. And,
okay.
And all the kids, if you feel that, please let us know if you can hear Miss Melanie clearly.
Yeah. Hello? Oh, Hanyun, are you okay? Hi. Good morning, boys and girls, and thank you for making it so early this Saturday morning. I'm so glad to meet you guys virtually. So as CK has already mentioned that I do write children's books. I also teach, and I also write other things like magazines, websites. I write for museums sometimes, which is also why I feature. I'll talk about some of the museums later as well. But I just thought today I would introduce one of my books, which I think might be quite enjoyable for you guys, especially these days. We don't really get to go out as much as we used to with our families. Maybe some of you can, maybe if you feel free to chat, maybe talk about one place you went to during the June holidays. Maybe I might actually mention this place when I talk about this book of mine called Out and About in Singapore. So let me just tell you a bit more of the book while you maybe share with me in the chat the places that you have been during the June holidays, or even during the weekends with your family when you have some spare time to, explore and relax as well. So, yeah. So basically, what's so special about this book is that it's a travel guide. really. And but it's especially for kids like you. And I think you guys are the perfect age range between kindergarten to lower primary. So you guys are the perfect readers for the book. But we do know that the proper travel guides, maybe your parents or your older siblings might have borrowed the travel guides before. They're usually very thick, right? And they're very kind of like unwieldy with a lot of words. So it might actually feel quite imposing or quite difficult to read. So I decided that, like, especially since my son, who's primary 3, I think some of you are in primary 3 as well. Ever since he was young, he also loved traveling a lot. I thought, like, having this kind of fun travel guide just for kids would make it more meaningful for you guys when you are trying to learn more about the new places you are visiting in Singapore. And what is even more special about this book is that there are no photographs in this book. I actually was paired with this very special artist, very talented artist called Uncle William or William Sim. Now, William actually usually does beautiful like paintings and things like that. And he's does art exhibitions usually. But when I was paired up with him to work on this book together, just for kids, this travel guide, he said, I want to use color pencils because when I was a kid, I used color pencils, and I'm sure a lot of you also use color pencils, right, for your arts and craft in school, or when you have worksheets that require you to color. So we thought that, hey, let's, because it's a kids travel guide, we use color pencils as well, because that's what kids are doing for their art quite a lot of the time. Color pencils is something you have to bring to school every day, right? Yeah, and I see like a lot of you have been traveling around Singapore quite a bit. And these are some places I really love as well. And I thought that, like having a color pencil illustration would actually also capture a bit of the magic of these places. Sometimes photographs are great, especially photographs that are well taken, but somehow color pencil illustrations kind of capture that kind of memories that we might enjoy about a place. So today I'm not going to go through the whole book with you, because that would take quite a while, and we only have 45 minutes this morning, unfortunately, but I just want to show you roughly what it's like. So again, because I didn't want to make it too wordy like the grown-up travel books, I just would split things up into short pieces of text for you to read and feature kind of very common areas in Singapore, but also some not so well-known places as well, so that you can find other places to explore besides the ones you've already visited with your friends and family. So this is an example of one of the, a spread in the book. So you can see there's Uncle William's color pencil drawings, and I'm actually talking about Wechat. I'm not sure, do any of you live in Wechat, or know of Wechat? Maybe you can raise your hands. I can roughly see the hands floating around, so it kind of give me a sense. So Wechat is somewhere in the east. That's great. And you even might have been to this particular area called Koon Sing Road, where they have a whole bunch of colorful shop houses, and it's very popular, not just with families, but teenagers and young adults who want to have very cool pictures in their TikToks and their Instagram. This is a very like aesthetic place to kind of pose and have some cool shots and capture some memories. So Uncle William did a beautiful color pencil drawing of this, but I write like little blobs of text which are hopefully simply written, not like the chim too difficult travel adult books. And they give you some basic facts. For example, that Wechat is really like a place where there's a lot of Peranakan culture. So for some of you some of you are Peranakan, but for those of you who may not know what Peranakan culture is, Peranakan just means like straight Chinese with some mixture of Malay or Indonesian heritage. So Peranakan food is usually very spicy, and there's a lot of Peranakan places in Wechat. And of course, we also mentioned that how there's actually this special Peranakan heritage place called the Intan. So this is just one example of how I cover a place, and we have some illustrations and some fun facts to accompany it. So today, right, what I really want to kind of introduce you is to some of the places I'm covering as well in the book. And I will sort of feature some of Uncle William's art as well. And maybe I can do a mic thing, like maybe get one or two of you to speak with each destination that I sort of draw from the book. And maybe you might learn something new as well today. So I'll be just sharing some facts as well as some of the art from this book. And hopefully, if you enjoy it, you might want to buy a copy to, like some of the readers have told me, they actually brought it around as they've gone around Singapore, being the local tourists during the school holidays or during the weekends. All right. So, okay, so this is an honest question. Okay, so again, I want to see if there are going to be any hands. Do any of you think Singapore is boring? Okay, yeah. Thanks, Jeffrey, Chloe. Yeah, feel free honest. Do you feel like, oh, it's such a small place, and then it's quite crowded sometimes, right? But I think not many of you raise your hand, so that's good. There's hope that maybe a lot of you are still finding things interesting to do. But yes, there's sometimes a question that it's boring, but some of you said no, so that's great. Okay, so yeah, so Singapore is not boring. Just in case maybe you might have heard people saying it as well. We should always because especially since I assume most of you are living in Singapore or you have visited Singapore, even though it's a very small place, there's always pockets of things for people with different interests. So you can see, right? So what I put here in this image is actually from the Singapore Tourism Board. So they are the people who promote Singapore as a holiday destination. So this is all before, this was a few years ago, they came up with this campaign saying that, there's something you can do. So even if you like food, there's plenty of food options. If you like to go shopping, there's so many different ways of shopping these days and beyond just Orchard Road. If you like nature, you like action, there's also plenty of outdoor activities you can do here. If you like history, you can go to the museums. So there's really you just kind of need to know your interests first. And then from there, maybe you can figure out what you like. So maybe can I hear from one or two kids, maybe two kids, maybe you can do the mic. What do you like to do in your free time? Where do you like to visit in your free time? Could I have a mic? Somebody wants to do a share? Okay, I see people raising their hands, but I think you must type mic, M-I-C. So if you could just, somebody must unmute themselves. Yeah, okay, so Ricky wants to share, and Zihan and Ziyu also want to share. Maybe hear from two of them. Where do you like to go? Ricky? Hi. Hi, Ricky. Hello. Okay. Oh, it's Chloe. All right. So whoever is being unmuted, I think by... Hi, who's this?
Ricky.
Hi, Ricky. So do you want to tell me what things do you like to do when you go out with your parents or your friends?
I like to go to Universal Studio.
Oh, me too. Which is your favorite ride there?
The teacup one.
I love that too. It gets you so dizzy. It's it makes the world so interesting, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Ricky. Could we hear maybe from one more kid if someone could help with the unmiking and situation? Hello, could we hear from one more kid? Is this Alice? I can't tell. So there are a lot of people want to share. But hi, who's this?
Alice.
Hi, Alice. So can you tell me what do you like to do when you go around Singapore?
To the museum.
You like to go to the museum. Oh, wow. Is there a particular museum or just all the museums you like? Hello? I can't quite hear. Okay. Hello? I think there's a bit of a sound situation. No worries. So for those of you who really want to say something and don't get to share, don't worry. I'm still reading your chats. Sorry, Alice, you were saying? Which museum you like? Okay, we can't hear. Okay, no worries. I do see some of you sharing on the chat, so please feel free to share. It also gives me a sense of what you guys like to do. But as you can see, there's some interest, right? So Ricky mentioned Universal Studios. Ephraim says Sea Aquarium. My son too, he loves sea animals. And Alice mentioned the museum. So she's more of a history, kind of history expert. So yeah, so you can see everybody has different interests and there are different things to do in Singapore. Yeah. Okay. Hi. Okay, so we'll move on because I want to get to the book, right? I want to show you more cool drawings that Uncle William came up with for the book. So, okay, this place, I'm sure, well, these things may not be familiar to you, but I'm sure you guys have seen Singapore River before. And when I talk about Singapore River, we had to draw these old bumboats because, as you know, this whole country was about, trade. And we have natural deep water. I think these are some things you might have learned for those of you, especially in primary school. Singapore really started with trade, so that means boats coming from other parts of the world, sharing, their goods and spices and clothes and things like that. And that's how Singapore sort of gradually became and built itself up to be a country, a proper country, rather than just in the past it was more like a fishing village, quite laid back. But all this while, because of its it's by the water, it's by the river. Trade is a big part of Singapore's identity. And it's where, how Singapore built itself up progressively, and boats are a very, very key part of that. So that's why when I have a chapter on Singapore River, it's very important that I felt like we had to bring a bit of that history in. So even though traveling is what you do now, right? But travel very often requires understanding history. I know history is sometimes a bit boring. And then especially history, social studies lessons can be quite, why must we know these things? But actually, it's great for traveling because it adds more depth. It adds more meaning to the things you see. It's not just, oh, okay, there's a river with water, yeah. But if you know the history and how Singapore gradually developed from, having boats coming in, then it becomes a lot more meaningful. All right, so that's Singapore River here. This place, I'm not sure how many recognize. And somehow so this place is actually Smith Street in Chinatown. And I'm sure there might be some of you going to Chinatown during Chinese New Year, maybe to buy supplies and decorations with your family. In Chinatown, I think there's quite a huge chapter we have on Chinatown, lots of interesting stuff. But what I'd like to say about Chinatown is like Wechat, remember that chapter I showed you from the book just now, the colorful shop houses? Chinatown is also full of colorful shop houses because, when Singapore built itself up, there were a lot of immigrants coming from China. So all of them stay in Chinatown. So there are a lot of shop houses. And today they have been restored and they've been painted different colors, made to look new and modern. And a lot of them are restaurants and shops these days for people who visit Chinatown. So it's really a place where you can learn more about Singapore's Chinese community and how it developed. So does anybody know what Chinatown is called in Chinese, Singapore's Chinatown specifically? Anybody want to try and answer this question? What was Singapore's Chinatown called in Chinese, in Mandarin? Anybody want to try? So Hanyu and Mike, do you want to try? Or people are raising their hands. All right, so I'll leave it to the Tinopi, someone from Tinopi to help. Hi, is this Sophia? Sophia, what was Chinatown called in Mandarin? What is Chinatown in Singapore called in Mandarin? Sophia? Okay, Sophia seems to be muted. Hi. Yes, great, Sophia. So 牛车水. And what is interesting is that not in Chinatowns and other parts of the world, not all of them are, I think only Singapore's is called 牛车水 because what happened is because so many Chinese immigrants used to stay in Chinatown. So there were, a lot of people need clean water. At that time, we don't have all the reservoirs and everything. It was early history Singapore. So to get clean water, there'll be these bullock carts. So bullock carts, bulls new in Chinese, right? Will be going around transporting clean water for everyone. So that's why it's called bullock cart. I think 牛车水. So it's a cart, but it's also transporting water. So it's actually, again, it's where history is really important. It gives you a sense of why is Singapore's Chinatown called 牛车水? And it's because of its history. When the residents would get clean water from bullock carts that were transporting water all around for the residents living there. Okay, but for now, Chinatown is just really good for food. So this is Smith Street in Chinatown. You can find all kinds of hawker food there. So for those of you who like eating and trying new food with your families, this is one really nice place to visit after, the restrictions are over. I'm sure the hawkers will really appreciate your support. Okay, so this is a place I'm not sure if any of you have been here or you've seen this place. Maybe your parents drove around this area and you saw this very interesting building. It's a mosque. So, you know, a mosque is a place of worship for people of the Muslim faith, the Islamic faith. And it's in this place called Kampong Glam. So this is the place where there's a lot of early immigrants from Malay and Arab communities, because all of them share the same religion, which is Islam. So a lot of them stayed in the same area called Kampong Glam. I really like Kampong Glam, and I think that for those of you who love a lot of colors, who like spicy food, who just like to see things that almost feel, and there's also a lot of graffiti art here in this area, very artistic place. But one really unmissable place in Kampong Glam is this mosque you see here with a golden dome. And what is interesting about this place is that I'm not sure any of you have been inside. So in the past, visitors were allowed inside. You just had to remove your shoes and make sure you're wearing covered clothes. If you go inside, it really feels almost like a palace. It can fit over 5,000 people in their hall. And it almost feels like Aladdin, like where Aladdin would hang out with Princess Jasmine. It had that kind of vibes, and it has this golden kind of roof, and but it's called dome. And what is interesting is this mosque is called Sultan Mosque, and it was actually it was this old Malay Sultan who actually asked Sir Stamford Raffles that, hey, we have this community of Malay and Arab people of the Islamic faith. We need to build a mosque. So that's why it was called the Sultan Mosque, because it was the Sultan who asked Raffles to build this mosque so the Muslims could actually have a place to visit. So this is really, if you really have some tourist friends coming and family, last time in the past, not so much in the past few months. And what you will find is that a lot of postcards will feature this mosque, because it's kind of like a hallmark thing. But what's interesting is a lot of locals don't really go near it, but you should, especially if in the future visitors are allowed. It's such a fascinating place, and it's full of history and this beautiful architecture. And like I said, it feels a bit like like Aladdin and Princess Jasmine. So for those of you who like that cartoon, this is like a real life kind of like place to check out. Yeah. Okay, so this is Kampong Glam and Sultan Mosque. So do remember to look out for Sultan Mosque. Sometimes you can see it also if you're driving around that area as well, which is around Beach Road area. All right, this place, very different from the kind of like specific building. So this is a specific building, but it's a really big building. This is an art museum. So Alice mentioned that you like to go to museums. So maybe you probably have been to this museum. Can I have a show of hands? Again, raise hands. How many have been to the National Gallery? Okay, that's quite wow. So all of you are kind of like art museum pros already, right? Great. So National Gallery is Singapore's art museum, and houses over 8,000 pieces of art from Singapore and Southeast Asia. So it really wants to kind of promote art, because a lot of times art museums, the art's all from Western countries, and rightly so, because art museums did start in countries like, in the UK and the US, but Singapore really felt like, we need to kind of give more exposure to artists around this region. And so that's why they have really, really interesting exhibitions that feature artists who are from Singapore as well as Southeast Asia. So some of you have not been here yet. It is a really interesting place. So it's actually housed in these old buildings, which actually used to be government buildings when Singapore was run by the British. So the British would actually have their offices here, but of course now Singapore is independent. So these buildings were empty for a long time, and only, I think about 10 years ago, they decided to actually turn this into an art museum. And what's so great about this? So even though it looks very imposing, right? When you see this, it's like, wow, so formal, like so regal almost. But when you go inside, there's actually a really cool gallery for kids called the Keppel Arts Center for Education, and it's on the first level, so you'll see it. There's probably like colorful arrows and things like that. So when you enter the museum, they have this like specific area on the first floor just for kids. So they've actually made very fun exhibitions just for kids, and sometimes they have programs too. Do check it out if you visit it, because I think it really makes art fun for people of all ages. So what I like about this gallery is that's a mixture of exhibitions. So for those of you who are more used to going to museums often, you can check out like some of the usual exhibitions they have on Singapore artists. But for those of you who are like still figuring things out and still want to have fun, right? When you go to a museum, there's plenty of stuff for kids. So you just need to check that Keppel Art Center on the first floor of National Gallery, and you will probably have lots of fun there. They have like different rooms, different activities, and they're always very interactive kind of things you can do with the art they've created there. Okay, have any of you been there? Can maybe one of you who has been there maybe share your experience in National Gallery? Could I maybe hear from one person? Sorry, the trouble, Elaine, to unmute somebody. So hit mic again if you want to share your National Gallery experience. Okay, Mike, nobody, Mike. Mike, okay, Chloe, we have Chloe. Oh, there's someone who's here. Chi Ting, is it? Hi. Is it Chi Ting? Am I pronouncing your name correctly?
Yes.
Yes. So can you tell me, what did you do when you went to National Gallery?
Go to Marina Bay.
Yeah, it's kind of near Marina Bay. Yeah. So Marina Bay Sands also has another museum called Art Science Museum. So this is different. This is that's different. The one has more modern stuff. But yeah, National Gallery. Do you remember? Or anybody else? Hi. Okay. So I think okay, I will move on. So don't worry, we can still share on the chat if you didn't get a chance to talk. And of course, I'm gonna, like, after the whole like event today, Tenobi will be sharing, like where you can buy my books and where you can contact me. So you can still email me if you want. If you really had like pressing, burning things you wanted to share with me about your travel experiences around Singapore, because it is such an interesting place, right? So guys, have you also been to Little India? So Little India is again like a place where the early Indian or South Asian immigrants came to Singapore to settle. And Little India, if you realize, during Deepavali or Diwali holiday, it's usually full of bright lights because Diwali is actually the festival of lights. It's also a place with a lot of colorful shop houses, but it has a very different feel from, say, Chinatown and Kampong Glam. I think each one of them has their own specific kind of feels. And Little India is really kind of bustling with things. There's shops. Maybe some of your parents might have told you about this wonderful shopping center there that's open 24 hours called Mustafa Center, right? But even besides Mustafa Center, there are plenty of these like small shops. And I used to, when I was younger, right, I would just kind of walk around Little India because I found it so fascinating. And there will already be this shop selling food and fruits, and they are so much cheaper than what you get in the supermarket. So in case of parents, if any of you are looking out for good grocery deals, Little India's like fruits are like basically 50% cheaper than what you find in NTUC or Cold Storage and things like that. So it's a very good place to see like things on display. The rest, again, for those of you who like spice, there are a lot of Indian restaurants there, and a lot of them are very vegetarian. So it's, in a sense, interesting to eat vegetarian. You don't usually eat vegetarian food. And yeah, it's a very lively personality. You just have to be a bit careful of the traffic sometimes. It can get quite busy because the roads are quite narrow there. Kampong Glam as well, the roads can be quite narrow because those areas were built like way before there were, all of us have so many cars. So you just have to be a bit more careful, maybe hold your parents' hand, look left, look right, look left before you cross roads and things like that. But definitely what is so interesting, it is because like they all started out being like for very specific communities, but over time, yes, there are quite a lot of Indian migrants living in Little India and things like that. They're actually, it's a lot more diverse. So you will see, like in Singapore, most parts of Singapore, it's a whole mixture of cultures and races living in these different areas, but they still keep their specific cultural kind of history, which is very unique. So Little India is definitely a place worth visiting more because it's just full of color and full of cheap food. maybe even have cheap toys. In fact, I think I've seen some shops that have rather affordable toys as well. So that's Little India for you. And so let's go on to like more nature stuff, which I'm sure many of you enjoy because Singapore is a small place, so we don't often get to go out a lot, right? So I'm quite sure almost all of you have been here, right? Whether it's from school or your parents brought you, it was the Singapore Botanic Gardens. So Singapore Botanic Gardens was actually built very, very long time ago, but again, by the British, during the time when the British were ruling Singapore. They built it in 1859, which is over 100 years ago, man. And but of course, till today, it's still very celebrated. So Singapore Botanic Gardens is the UNESCO Heritage Site. So what is UNESCO Heritage Site? It just means that it's a really, really important place that should be kind of commemorated in the world. So like things like Niagara Falls, like a lot of the wonders of the world are UNESCO heritage sites. So to have Singapore Botanic Gardens as a UNESCO heritage site means it's really quite a big deal around the world. And of course, like I have friends from other countries who visit, and this is often the first place they want to go because it's so famous. And why it's so famous, besides it being a beautiful park in the city, right? Like so near Orchard Road and things like that, right? Is that it has a very, very important historical role in rubber. So you guys know what rubber is, like, you know, your eraser? But many things are made of rubber, like your basketball, car tires, and things like that. So basically, why rubber became such a common kind of material used in the world is because of Singapore Botanic Gardens. Because one of the first few British guy, he actually developed a way of, you know, sort of tapping rubber in a way that it doesn't kill the tree so fast. He developed that technique here because Singapore Botanic Gardens started out being where a lot of the British scientists would sort of be studying a lot of the plants and animals in Singapore and Southeast Asia. And he sort of worked out how to, you know, extract rubber sap to make into rubber material in a way that could be really, you know, can make money, but still not destroy trees. So it can actually become a very like profitable business. And that's how rubber became a huge, huge business around the world, even up to today. So because of this history, the fact that the whole rubber business started being developed in Singapore Botanic Gardens is one of the key reasons why it's also, you know, this Botanic Gardens is considered a UNESCO heritage site because, you know, like there are actually many beautiful gardens around the world. But again, because of this special historical role, Singapore Botanic Gardens is a place worth visiting, but also it's really fun for kids. So there are plenty of stuff for kids. There's Jacob Balla's Children's Garden, as well as I think there's this new one, the Como Adventure Grove. Some of you might have been there as well. So they're all like outdoor adventure stuff, quite, you know, open, fresh air. If the weather is good, it's really nice for kids to play in. I'm sure you guys have enjoyed being there as well. And of course, there's some beautiful, because it's such an old park, there's some beautiful mature trees that are still there. And they really have a lot of, like, you know, they provide a lot of shade. So it's actually not too hot. Even if you're going on a hot day, it doesn't feel as hot because they're huge trees with plenty of shade around. And oh, that's great. You have a friend called Jacob, went to Jacob Balla's garden. Very good. It comes all together. And yeah, again, it's definitely a place where you feel that Singapore is boring and there's nothing to do. I always feel Singapore Botanic Gardens is a really good place to go to just relax. And you don't actually, sometimes when you go out to travel and explore, you don't really need to do something. You can just enjoy nature for what it is. Okay, I realize I'm getting so excited talking about places. I have to rush a bit in getting through the things I want to show you before we have a little quiz. Okay, so just hang in there. Okay, this place, I'm not sure whether how many of you have been here? Lee Kong Chian Natural History Museum. Has anyone been here before? So this is one of the places. Oh, okay. Not as many hands as compared to the other places. And that's what I also wanted to capture in the book. Some places which I found that my son really loved, but it's not famous because it's not like one of the major tourist attractions in Singapore. So this is actually, you know, for those of you who love science, who love plants and animals, this is a really good place to go. It's not a big museum. It's not like National Gallery, which is huge in these big buildings, or even National Museum, which is also in this beautiful white colonial building. Lee Kong Chian Natural History Museum is actually in NUS, which is National University of Singapore. It's one of the buildings there. You won't really notice it. You drive past, it looks like any of the school buildings you see in that university. But if you go there, you would see this the first thing you do when you go in, right? You'll see these massive dinosaur fossils. Yes, so Jocelyn, you were asking, are there fossils? Yes, and they're really huge dinosaur fossils. So check that out. Of course, those don't come from Singapore. They brought it in, but they piece it together until I think there are 3 of them and they're almost complete. So they're really quite a wonder to look at. And then of course they put in sound effects and they sort of built this foresty decoration, so you can almost imagine what the dinosaurs are like. So that's really cool. But besides the dinosaurs, there are also plenty of like plant and animal specimens. So specimens mean they actually are dead animals, but they're stuffed and preserved. Don't worry, they don't look scary. They just look like you can go up close to them and you can observe their features and things like that. There are also some replicas of certain plants that may be a bit more rare, like the Rafflesia plant. But it's a really good place to kind of up your game in terms of all the sciencey things. I know my son, he likes to retain all his knowledge about all the animal names. He knows, and every time we go here, he feels like he learns something, because there are also a lot of interactive multimedia shows and videos that show you how certain local animals move. You definitely learn something here. But like I said, it's not a very big museum, but of course, if you love science, you can spend hours here. So it's kind of probably 1/4 the size of National Museum, and it's only I think 2 levels. But if you love science, there's just so much information and so many interesting things to look at. So that's great. Yeah, so not figurines, they're actually stuffed animals. So some of them are stuffed animals, like the stuffed orangutan. I think there's a stuffed lion somewhere there as well. And they all come from the university, because, scientists, in order to study animals and plants, they do need to actually study the dead specimens sometimes to actually learn more. So these all come from the scientists. So they're all really legit and very, very fascinating. So do check it out. It might require you to take a taxi or your daddy or mommy to drive there, because it's right in the middle of a big university. So it's not something you can just hop on a station and just walk. You might have to kind of plan on how to get there. But I think it makes a really nice holiday activity. Okay, so for both parents and kids. All right, this is another place which I'm not sure how many have been. In fact, I haven't been there in a number of years, so I kind of missed this place. But this is a very interesting place, especially those of you who love Chinese folk tales. You love stories that come from around the world, that kind of thing. So Haw Par Villa is kind of like an Asian theme park. What is interesting, it wasn't built like Disneyland. People built Universal Studios and they built Disneyland because they want kids to have fun, right? Haw Par Villa was actually built in 1937, so that's almost 100 years ago, by the guy who founded Tiger Balm. Do your grandparents use Tiger Balm? Like the little tub, and then they this tub, Tiger Balm, and when you're sick and it's kind of minty, I don't know what they use for their oil, but the Tiger Balm owner, he built this this theme park with all these rides, almost like these rides, but they're all about Chinese virtues and what hell is like, what the Chinese version of hell is like, all in the name of trying to improve people's morality, to teach people what is right and wrong and how to be better people. So one of the most famous rides they have is this thing called the 10 Courts of Hell. And even it's so old that my mother still remembers it as a kid, and she remembered that she was so frightened after she went through this 10 Courts of Hell. It's that she was like, she didn't dare to lie for a while. So as you can see, it did work, I think, with children in the past. Not so sure now, but of course they refurbished it. They actually made a whole bunch of improvements, so it still looks new and modern, but the same, the staple rides, for example the 10 Courts of Hell, are still very popular and still very iconic of Haw Par Villa. So again, I think it's quite interesting. It will make a place you can get really interesting photos there, but at the same time you can also really learn more about Chinese folktales and folklore, and there will be plenty of figurines and dioramas. So dioramas are kind of like exhibitions, but they're kind of life-size. So do check it out. I think some of you have got some links, and Ricky shared some links, so maybe that's really cool. So again, not your typical Disneyland Universal Studios. I think it will be also quite fascinating for you guys to check out. All right. Okay, I think this is the last one, but I think I have a few more islands to go through. CK, I'll be really fast for the next few, okay, just to let Uncle CK know. All right, so Night Safari, I'm sure you guys know about it. I think for me, I just wanted to share is that what I like about Night Safari is that it's not as hot as going to the zoo. I know you guys went to the zoo, right? But actually a lot of animals in Southeast Asia, they actually, out of like surviving better, a lot of them are nocturnal actually. So when you go to Night Safari is where you actually see them at their most awake and alert state, because a lot of local animals here are nocturnal by nature. What I had there was once I had to actually I got to work here for a week as part of writing a travel story, and I got to see the behind the scenes of how they run Night Safari. It was really interesting. So for those who went there, you might wonder how come every time the tram pass by the animals are so like they almost look like they're there to greet you, right? And they're kind of very smiley, or they're very active. And that's actually because usually in front of the tram, there's this feeding cart, like a golf cart. And the zookeepers are actually throwing food at the animals. So the animals will come out. So by the time the golf cart goes away, which is the feeding cart, when you pass by with the tram, the animals are all out and very happy because they got food. They just got food recently. So that's kind of like some of the things they do at Night Safari to make sure every visitor gets to see the animals up close, and because the animals are all in front, eagerly waiting for their food. So these are little tricks. I know it feels a bit manipulative on the animals, but some animals actually really have very, very strong personalities. So like there's this elephant called Chawang there. You might have seen him. He's super grumpy, and apparently he's quite sensitive. So if he can sense when maybe people think he's might criticize him because he's not as big as the African elephants. I think he's a Thai elephant. So he's not as massive as some elephants some visitors seen. So he actually doesn't like people. So there are times, so like me, there was once I was in the golf cart, the feeding cart, right, throwing food at the animals, and Chawang squirted water at us. And apparently, because there's a moat, you notice the animals are surrounded by this moat, which is a waterway. And he actually drew water from that and sprayed it at us. And actually, it's because he was angry with the zookeeper. So what I really liked about Night Safari is that you can see the personality of the animals, because this is really at the time when many of them are quite awake and like are the busiest and the hungriest. So if you guys maybe have an afternoon nap on the day you visit Night Safari, I think you also would also have a very fun time spending it with these creatures as well. So Jocelyn asked, they can't get out. Yeah, they can't, but the area, the way they build it is as close to their natural habitat as possible. So I would say it's the most, it's a very merciful or humane version of, like kind of helping to take care of these endangered animals who are now like heavily hunted in their natural habitats. But now here, at least they're being protected and also living in quite natural environments. Okay, so there's some, and somebody's asking about breathing fire. Usually at the start, when the Night Safari first opens, there's usually a fire show, usually just to get the visitors all pumped up. And these are just kind of like people who know how to do fire tricks. And so it's just to build up that safari atmosphere. So no worries about that. The man is not an actual resident at Night Safari. He's just one of the performers. Okay, so we're going to the islands now. So the islands out of Singapore, which is another chapter in Out and About in Singapore. Okay, so there's Pulau Ubin. Again, I will just leave it out here. I think what is nice is that maybe it's good to go with your grandparents, because I think Pulau Ubin feels like what Singapore was like in the 60s and 70s. So it's a really nice place to kind of learn about how your parents or grandparents might have lived. It's full of, there's a really nice nature place called Chek Jawa as well. So you just need to take a jetty out, you need to go to Changi Jetty and take a ferry out to Pulau Ubin. All right. There is no chapter on Singapore's wasteland. I haven't been there yet, so I couldn't write about it. So I would love to go there though. I'm very curious about it. But Pulau Ubin is a great place, and if you cycle, Pulau Ubin is best explored through cycling because it's quite huge. So if you walk, you will get tired unless you keep on stopping for breaks. But full of really, really interesting stuff. You will see lots of animals and plants and some kampong areas as well. It's a really relaxing day out to visit. Okay, this one, again, how many of you have been here? Kusu Island. So I also last went there when I was a kid. But apparently there are a few of you. That's interesting. So usually take a ferry to Kusu Island from Marina South Pier. And Kusu Island is, I'll tell you a bit more about its folktale and its folklore in a bit. But the people usually go there because there are temples. There's a temple there, and there's some shrines as well. And the people feel like they are very powerful places. Like people who go there apparently get blessed and stuff like that. So a lot of people, especially the older generation, will go there. I'm not sure whether there are restrictions now, but in the past, especially during like September, October, a lot of them will go there to pay a visit. But I also have friends who have been there on their own because they are nature lovers. And they say there's some amazing coral, like living corals. A lot of coral around Singapore is actually dead because of urbanization, things like that. But Kusu Island area apparently is one of the few places in Singapore where you can still see live coral in the beaches, which are very clean. So Kusu Island has a very interesting story as well. So I actually have a quick story for you. Hold on. Okay, so I'll just read this story out. So again, I feature folktales about Singapore as well. So it's a mixture of not just giving you historical facts and of information about the place, but also I give you some of the popular folktales. So let me read it out to you. Okay, so what you see here, you might have to look at this image over here, which is the turtle and the two fishermen. Okay, so let me read this out to you. So Kusu actually just means turtle in Malay. So legend has it that during a rough storm, two shipwrecked fishermen, one Malay and one Chinese, so even then, very multiracial, stranded at sea, were rescued by a giant magic turtle who turned into an island so they could swim ashore. Later, the fishermen built a Chinese temple and a Malay shrine on the island in gratitude to the mysterious creature who saved them from drowning. So as you can see, there's a sense of like magic kind of vibes, right, to this island, given its like origin story. And of course, I think now there are 3 Malay shrines now. But there's still just one main Chinese temple. So it's quite interesting. A lot of places which are surrounded by sea, their origins often start with some magical animal saves them in some shipwreck. So Kusu Island is also like quite they're quite similar. And there's some new words that I wanted to highlight in this particular story I'm reading out to you, just in case like when I was reading out, you didn't quite understand some of the words. So let me just go on. Yeah, so I used the word legend. So legend just means it's a well-known traditional story, or easier put, folk tale. So just one way for you to understand what it means when I say legend has it, okay, which is over here. And shipwrecked. So shipwrecked just means a stranded and destroyed ship, okay? Ashore, which I think some of you probably will guess the meaning, means just being on land. So the turtle, that magic turtle, brought them ashore, which means they brought them to a place where there was land. And we use shrine. So shrine is a bit different from temple, because so take note, there's temple and the shrine. So what's interesting is shrine is actually like a smaller version, is a subset of a temple. So a shrine, a temple is usually like quite a big building, and a temple usually has several shrines. So it's like a more formal building in that sense. A shrine usually is just an area, like a rough area, and then maybe they'll just have flowers and statues and stuff, but it's a little more, how to say, a smaller scale. So just for you to take note of the difference between temple and shrine, so that like if you do visit Kusu Island one day, the Malay shrines are actually like very small areas, whereas the Chinese temple is quite massive there. So you will probably be able to see the difference between what is a temple and what is a shrine as well. Okay, so mysterious. So I use the adjective mysterious, right? So they don't know about this mysterious turtle that saved them. So mysterious just means difficult to understand or explain. And I think a lot of time there is a lot of mystery in life, right? So I think CK said that there was a student who wanted to go to Mike. Anybody want to talk and say something? Who was it? CK, if you could advise, that'd be great. Hi. Who's this? Oh, teaching, is it? Okay. All right. Okay, I'm not sure who is saying something. Who wanted to say something? If I could hear from you. Okay, I'm a bit confused. Oh, is it Zihan? Okay. Whoever wants to talk. Okay, then yes, I think you may leave because we are running time, but we are finishing up. So if you just want to hang in there, there's just a few more slides actually after this. So who wanted to talk? Please talk. Yes, I'm open. Not sure why people are not talking. I'm here. Oh, so okay, move on. Okay, CK says move on. Okay, no worries. Okay, so here is where I have a quiz. So there are, CK, can you advise on how to do the quiz? I'm a bit unsure at this point. If you could maybe explain to students. There are some questions I prepared for you. Ah, yes. Okay, great. So you just start from, I think there's 6 questions for you. So please feel free to do it. It will kind of give me a sense of whether you were able to follow through and listen to what I was saying. Okay. Okay. Do you want me to move on while I do the quiz? Okay. All right. So, first is question 1. All right. So let's do question 1 first. All right. How long? Okay. So Singapore River. How long did it take to clean the Singapore River? Let's see. Is everyone's stuff in? Okay. So, all right. So yes, the answer is 10 years. All right. So it took 10 years, and I realized I didn't really talk about this. For those of you who know it, you actually got it correct. So Singapore River, because it was such a busy area of trade, it got really dirty by the 1980s. So 1970s, and they actually took 10 years to clean up all the stuff because people would be throwing their rubbish in. They were bathing there. They were washing their pigs. They were like scrubbing their boats so it's full of oil. There was a lot of things. So I didn't mention this because I was telling you so much other stuff. So for those who got 10 years for Singapore River, great job. So it took 10 years. So sometimes cleaning up can take a while. Okay, so in Chinatown, what did I say about the shop houses? Yeah, you guys got it. Yes, in Chinatown, the shop houses are colorful, correct? Yes, it's because they were restored, and they also used as kind of like a tourist attraction to appeal to visitors today. They're all in painted different colors. We can go on to the next question. Thank you. Okay. Okay. Who built Sultan Mosque? Remember, I mentioned it, but I'm not sure whether you guys got it. Let's try. Oh, so this is a bit of a tricky one. I think all you guys only remember was the Aladdin bit, right? So just a big clue. Sultan Mosque is in its name. So the Sultan Mosque was built by the Sultan. That's all you kind of need to remember. All right. So most of you got it correct. That's great. Okay, you can go on to the next question. And let's go to the next. I think there's one last question. Or is then or there's maybe 2 more, not sure. All right, we'll see. All right, so I mentioned about this, right? The special title that Singapore Botanic Gardens has. And you guys are kind of getting it. Yes, it is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Yeah, UNESCO. So UNESCO actually stands for United Nations Economic, Social, and Cultural Organization. So it's actually, rewards and sort of recognizes anything that's very important to the world culture and history. Okay. All right. So I think we can end this one. Is there another question? The last one. Okay, let's see. This one should be easy. So I'm letting you do it. And yeah, it's all of the above. Yes, it's correct. All of the above. So please make sure you go there. It's not a big museum, but it's a really, really awesome museum for those of you who enjoy science. Okay, I think we're pretty much done. I think we're done, and then we can move on. I will close the polls, okay? So lastly, I just want to talk about this book. So actually this book, right, was actually written for was supposed to be written for older children, but as we developed it, we realized that we were really kind of tapping onto, like, it is actually more for young kids. So I would say it depends. Like, for those of you who are still like learning how to read by yourself, I would say it's a bit more difficult. But if for those of you who just still, you want to read this together with your daddy and mommy or your helper, this is, I think, of any age, I think you guys will enjoy it because there's so many beautiful illustrations, and there are also a lot of fun facts that you can easily absorb because we've split up the text into like little chunks, so it's not so, doesn't feel so wordy to you guys. So do check it out. All right, so actually I do have a last question for you before we end. Maybe before I ask this question, I just want to let you know that you can actually buy this book from a variety of places which your parents might be already shopping at. Amazon Books Depository, Go Guru, Times Bookstores, Books Kinokuniya, or Woods in the Books, which is a really cute children's bookstore, or you can borrow this book from the National Library quite easily. But right now, I actually want to hear more from you. So based on all the stuff I've shared with you, can you actually share with me one of your favorite places in Singapore, or based on maybe something I shared, is there one place you want to visit now that you haven't visited yet? Like maybe something I mentioned that you want to check out now? Yeah, feel free to talk. Maybe you could hear from 3 or 4 of you. That would be great. Hi, who's this? Hi.
My favorite place is Garden by the Bay.
Oh, yes. So that's in the book as well. I didn't talk about it because I feel most of you already know it already. Which is your favorite part of Gardens by the Bay?
The water place.
The water play. Yes, it is awesome, right? I love it. Yes. But must make sure you pack swimming costume and everything, and must bathe there and everything, right? Yes, the water play park is awesome in Gardens by the Bay. Thank you for sharing this. Who is this? I'm not who was talking. I didn't quite hear you. Maybe
Joey.
Oh, hi Joey. Thanks for sharing. Okay. All right. So can we hear maybe from one more person? Hi. Hi. Who's this?
Zihan. It's Zihan.
Hey. Hi Zihan.
I like Marina Bay Sands.
You like Marina Bay Sands. Which part exactly?
The pool on top of the hotel.
Yes, you've been there, the infinity pool. Yeah. When you swim there, how does it make you feel?
Fun?
It is fun. Thank you for sharing. Are you going to go there again soon?
Yeah.
Awesome. I really would have loved to hear more from you, but we have overrun our time. But not to worry. Like I mentioned, Tanopi will be sharing some contacts and stuff like that. And I'm so glad to tell you a bit more about my book. I also hope you enjoyed the information and the drawings that I shared with you today. I noticed there are some people who raise hands, but CK, maybe you want to wrap up?
Yeah, sure. Hey, thanks, Melanie, for sharing. I'm sure a lot of you hear about places you have not been to before. And even though you have been to some places, now you know more of them. Yeah, thanks, Melanie, for that. And her book is not just pictures. She actually wrote a lot of words beside the pictures to describe the pictures. And just that this session, she chose to tell her stories herself. So do pick up a copy of the book. After the session, we will also send out a PDF worksheet that you can do coloring on the shop house. I think Melanie has prepared for that, and we also send you the links to purchase the book, okay, by email, okay, and we will share it around. So yeah, so Melanie is sharing this this coloring sheet. We also pass you a sheet for you to have some fun, okay. Okay, so I just want to briefly talk about next week. So next week we will have this book called A Place for Us, Not So Scary After All. So in this book we will learn about a character. Adam is afraid of dogs, and one day he at his friend's house he loses his favorite toy, and Max, his friend's pet dog, finds the toy and returns safely to Adam. So will this help Adam overcome his fear of dogs? Okay, so this book is actually written by another author called Lian Ong. Okay, she has published 14 picture books so far, and 3 of which has won prizes at the Samsung Kids Time Authors Award in 2015 and 2016. So do come by next week to hear Lian speak. Okay, so in general, we have more authors lined up in July and August, and please make sure you come for this exciting talks every Saturday. And today we are very honored to have Melanie share with us. And so kids and parents, if you have any more questions for Melanie, feel free to send your questions to us through our team or whoever you're in contact with. We will have those questions answered as well. Yeah, we overrun time a bit, but thanks for staying through. Okay, and see all of you next week. Thank you, Melanie. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.